Hello, just a quick message from me before we start the episode. We had a bit of an audio problem this episode. Niki's audio equipment stopped recording about half an hour into our session, and that was the half an hour where we were just catching up and talking about rubbish. So I managed to get the audio from a backup recording, but it might be a bit rough around the edges, so sorry about that. Hope it doesn't get in the way, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 17 of the Escapism pod. I'm Luke and I'm joined by my two friends, Sam and Niki. Say hello guys, say hello Sam, I suppose. And say hello Niki.
Hello.
Cool. So this week, I say this week as if we have some sort of regular release schedule where I release a podcast every week. We all know that's not true.
This month?
We all know that's not true. We've had a bit of a holiday this episode. Because there's been a heat wave, and we had the sense to wait until the heat wave was over until we recorded this episode, which I think that was very sensible.
Yes, I got very tanned.
Summer can fuck off. Actually, I did have fun though in it because I cut up most of my work uniforms to make pirate bandanas to keep my head safe. So that was
You
fun.
might need that work uniform eventually.
Yeah, like I want to work.
So this episode we're looking at what we do in the shadows. Specifically, even though Series 2 is out, we're going to look at Series 1 first. We might allude to Series 2 a bit, because I think most of us have watched it. But we're just going to focus on Series 1 this time, and then I think later down the line we might look at Series 2 in a bit more detail. But before that, how has your lockdown been going? Sam, how's it going?
What have I been doing? Well, as you know, as always, I've been plumbing away working on my project. I had a fun day today where me and my colourful little Melissa did some voice acting and recorded that for one of the cutscenes.
That must have
So
been
that was
interesting.
different. Trying to convince her to stop putting on a West Country accent all the way through it. And what have I've taken a trip back to 2003 and I've been playing Silent Hill 2. So a bit of classic survival horror.
Nice.
Been fun.
Nice. Have you been watching anything in particular other than what we do in the shadows?
Well, I finished up with my Next Generation marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm doing my Voyager marathon before I move on to Deep Space Nine because I'm really feeling the nerd today.
Yeah, fair play. What about you, Niki? What have you been up to? Other than sunbathing?
I've been watching a lot of, I don't really know what the genre it's called would be. It's a real thing, and it's a recount of something that happened, but they do it with actors.
Like reconstructions?
Yeah, but in
crime.
a drama. Yeah, like a true crime drama.
A little bit like The People vs. OJ, if you ever saw that. Like a true crime series.
Yeah, so I watched the one that was about the Salisbury poisonings.
Oh yeah, I've seen about that. I haven't watched that yet, but that's on my list.
I found it really, really interesting. It was a really good watch, really good actors in it, and it's quite close to home, so it's quite funny.
Yeah.
Well, not funny, but it's a bit weird to know that happened. Like, it gives you that weird, unsettled feeling knowing that it happened in our country,
Yeah.
and so close by. And then the other one I watched is on Netflix, and that was the assassination of Gianni Versace, and it's the same thing where they've done like a recount, and it's a little bit over exaggerated, and there's lots of gay sex, but it's really interesting. It's really fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Really good. But yeah, that's what I've been watching.
Cool.
Mostly.
I'm trying to think what I've been doing other than watching What We Do in the Shadows. We watched the Netflix Eurovision movie last night, which was interesting.
You want to say you enjoyed it, but you don't want to you don't want to commit to that.
Partly because I think it wasn't that good, genuinely. I feel like there's such a good comedy to be made out of Eurovision because it's just so ridiculous. It's the wackiest, campest, most ridiculous thing that Europe is famous for. If you watch some of the funniest acts that have been in it, it feels like a comedy that would write itself.
Yeah.
But I really don't find Will Ferrell very funny.
Neither do I.
And he always, whenever he writes something, he always puts himself in the lead role. And it was just such a buzzkill for me because he's playing this Icelandic, middle-aged person who's obsessed with Eurovision and is really camp and has got the Icelandic accent. But it's just Will Ferrell. Is it Ferrell? Farrell? I don't know. It's just him. And he's just not that funny. He used to be funny, but he's not really funny anymore, and he's way too old to be playing that character. And it just ruined it for me. It's got some good bits. There were some good cameos by previous Eurovision people, and there were some okay jokes, but it was one of those things where it like made me chortle every sort of half hour, you know?
Chortle.
If you were doing a Eurovision comedy, surely you'd want to do it from like in the 90s, from the point of view of Terry Wogan, about 3 hours in. The point where he was always really drunk and bitter and got really sarcastic. Because it used to be great watching it just for that every year.
Yeah.
We started bitching about the Millennium Dome that time. Every time someone got some points, going, yeah, well, you've got a point, but you haven't got a plastic boil in the middle of your capital, have you? Ha! It's like, ooh, someone's getting bitter.
I learned how to do the best Terry Wogan impression recently. It's really simple. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Holy ho. He just goes, holy ho. It's shit. I'm joking. It's shit.
Oh, dude.
So yeah, I mean, I've watched some other stuff as well, but that's the main thing that springs to mind. Mainly, I've just been trying to rewatch What We Do in the Shadows for like the 4th time for some reason. I have seen this series a lot, and I really like it, but I just thought it should be fresh in my memory because, unlike you, Sam, I suck at remembering things. So I just thought, let's just get through all of it, and then I can talk about it with some sort of authority, hopefully. So yeah, should we get down to it then?
I think the best joke yet was you saying you with authority. I love that.
Yeah, I don't have any authority. I don't have a shred of it. I'm running this podcast and I don't even have authority over it.
You're our Guillermo.
Oh, you are, but you totally are.
No, I don't think I'm Guillermo. I think I'm, hear me out here. I think I'm Nandor. Because I'm the leader, but I'm also a real soft boy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am technically the one that's in charge, but I'm like, Guillermo, please do the thing for me. And it's...
Are you still there, Guillermo? I haven't fallen asleep yet. I tried my cape in poo. And I am ashamed to say I walked 3 blocks.
I feel like I would want to be Laszlo, though. But...
Fuck off! Oh, Jackie,
so,
turn up.
Sam, you've seen this before. You really enjoyed this series. Am I right in thinking?
I enjoyed it, yeah. Well, I enjoyed it up until the point where Melissa wanted to watch an episode with me and she kept falling asleep. And I had to watch the same episode 8 times in one night. It got a bit trying at that point.
Kind of ruins the atmosphere of the whole thing. When you've got the sound of snoring going over it as well, I suppose, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. If I can imagine Darth Vader as one of the vampires, it kind of works. Maybe if he was doing carpentry, you know? Yes. Nah, it's okay.
Considering that we made you watch this, Niki, and you'd not really heard of it before, what did you think? I know that's a really vague question to open with, but what were you expecting from the title, What We Do in the Shadows, and was it what you expected?
I think even though you told me that it was about vampires, I think I forgot that. And so when you told me the name of it again, because I was trying to find it to watch it,
yeah,
I was thinking maybe like zombie apocalypse. I just completely forgot.
Or shadow puppeteers.
Yeah, I just don't know why, but it gave me zombie vibes.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're gonna have to be more specific because I did my notes.
You did your notes. I mean, did you like it? Did you like it?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Good,
it was
good.
funny.
I'm glad. I love the kind of like, I feel like there's a whole juxtaposition throughout the whole series of like the mundane versus the supernatural. And I think that's one of the things I really like. Like just the fact that it's in a documentary style as well really kind of brings that out. It helps with this sort of sense of realism, you know, well, there's no special effects. Nothing's, well, inside the series, there's no special effects. You know, what they're recording is actually what they're recording. So I really like that. Did you watch this when it went out, Sam? Did you?
Yeah. Well, I was familiar with the film that it was based on for years, wasn't I? Yeah. So I've been following Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement's work for a very long time.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably worth mentioning. It is based on a film. So there's a film called What We Do in the Shadows, and that's set in New Zealand. And it's kind of a similar idea. It's a documentary crew following our housemates that are vampires, but it's set in New Zealand.
It straight up ties in, because in that council scene where they met all the other vampires, it's about 3 of those guys living together, but they're placed in New Zealand.
Although I never quite understood that section. In the series, they were the shit vampires that weren't...
Vladislav the Poker.
But they weren't they weren't the head honchos.
No.
They weren't the impressive vampires. They were the, the layabouts and the the shit ones. So why would they make it to the Vampire Council? Anyway, that's something to talk about later. So we start with Guillermo, and I love Guillermo. I love that he's like our point of view character.
Okay, he's like your spirit animal.
Yeah, kinda. What do we think of Guillermo? He's very
I like
cute,
his character
isn't he?
arc.
Yeah, me too.
Like, throughout the whole series, you just see him obviously repeatedly trying to be turned into a vampire.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the more you go through it, the more psychotic you realise he actually is.
Yeah.
In the circumstances that he's in. Like, he's like burying those bodies in the garden and shit.
Because he starts off as like the point of view character, like the one that's showing you the world. And then the more you go into the world, you realise that he's pretty twisted as well. Like, he's not normal at all. And then his slow realisation that actually he's related to a vampire slayer. I thought that was a good way to end series 1. I thought it was really cool.
Although as his arc goes on, I start thinking more and more, so, dude, do you even want to be a vampire now? I mean, it kind of would have put you off, surely. You just think, nah, I've changed my mind. Just, nah, okay.
So,
character.
what have you got in your notes for the first episode then, Nikki? What did you think of it?
Well, it was more of like an introductory kind of episode, really. I'm looking back at my notes. When I watched the first episode, I didn't have subtitles on, but I put them on like sort of halfway through the series because I just needed to know how their names were spelt.
Yeah.
And I put Nando, as in like Nando's.
Yeah. You got the chicken, Guillermo.
Vadia.
But it's spelt Vadya, and then Laszlo was spelt completely wrong. But yeah. Open the letter from the Baron, and it just introduces a bit of like what their powers are, and like how Colin differs from the rest of them.
I love Colin.
So we've got Nando, Nando. I just did it as well.
Nando.
Hey Nando.
Yes, it's directly from the Piri Piri Empire. Yeah.
I really like that episode as like a introduction into the world, but also introduces the Baron as well. I feel like there's a lot of like quite clever plot writing in it. There's a lot of like Chekhov guns, like something that get introduced in the first episode and then doesn't come back to series 6. Because I love the Baron. I think the Baron's really funny, specifically in like the Baron's Night Out episode.
Yes,
I think it's a really.
I love them decorating for it. Creepy paper.
Creepy paper. Creepy paper.
Well, it was the same when they were buying the decorations for the Baron's like welcome back ceremony.
Yeah.
And he goes, the bit that like I audibly went ha like out loud is when they're gonna pay for the glitter, and he's like, "Sir, you can't just throw ancient coins at me."
Throw it at him, Gilmore. Throw it at him.
We learn that the virgins are a big deal in this.
But like a modern spin on it, because you know when they think about like traditional virgins, you think of like, you know, young women, whereas actually it's just like larpers.
Definitely one of my favourite lines from the film. I know a little bit off subject, but was Jermaine Clement explaining that. It said, "What is it with virgins?" I was like, "Well, think of it like a sandwich. I think we'd all enjoy a sandwich much more, knowing no one has fucked it."
So the series is written and kind of created by Jermaine Clement, who me and Sam know really well from. I've tried to get you to watch Flight of the Conchords before, Nikki, and you just find it really weird. I've played it in the shop before, and you're just like, "What the fuck is this?" But Jermaine Clements is one of the people in Flight of the Conchords, and then it's a big part of the series writing. I don't know if he's the creator, but a lot of the writing and the directing is by Taika Waititi as well, who's kind of known now as this kind of zany.
Well, he's kind of known as Thor Ragnarok guy, isn't he? You know.
Yeah, Thor Ragnarok, but then he does have this reputation for like this off the wall comedy that's like partly improvised. And it does kind of sting a lot of Taika Waititi. I think his mark is definitely on it.
They have a very similar style, those two, though.
I think as well, the series, it's quite interesting because I think a lot of what the series undertone is about is like, if you take away the vampires, they're immigrants living in the US. And a lot of the humor is based around like cultural differences. Which is actually what a lot of like the Conchords is about as well, because they're New Zealand people living in New York trying to make it as a band. But I think it's quite an interesting little.
They tried to do the musical of it and kept confusing their story with Star Wars.
So yeah, I love this series. I think their writing is really good. I think their sort of like documentary style is fantastic.
Yeah.
Almost like The Office, but if it was like, well, I know there's a British version of The Office, but if there was a British version of The Office that was vampires, it would be this.
I find the series really weird because it is actually an American series, but it feels very British.
It's so British.
Yeah.
The humour is very British, I feel.
But I think it's probably because there are some quite a lot of similarities between British and New Zealand comedy, because Taika Waititi and Gemma Clements are New Zealand. So I think that's a similar, because it's all very awkward and all very natural, and like we were talking about with The Thick of It, there's a lot of like filler, and it feels very natural and improvised, and they talk like me basically. Can't string a sentence together. But yeah, I think the immigrants aspect is really interesting. And not it doesn't hit you over the head with it, but just like little things like when Nando's trying to become a citizen and he has to take the test, or the very first scene when Laszlo and Nadia are out for a walk and they get told to go back to where they came from. And you sort of, well, I've been here for 800 years, my friend.
Still hasn't picked up.
That was a good Matt Berry.
I say, Nadia, what do you think? A spot of food?
Down another point, actually.
I love Matt Berry.
What with the very humorous tone of it, it's quite surprising that they do actually successfully pull off a few horror moments that are genuinely creepy. I mean, that bit when Nadia turned into all the rats in the car park, that was like, oh, cool, that is cool.
The thing I love about that scene is that she's having like a really, again, it's that mundane versus the supernatural. She's having like a really mundane phone call before where she's like,
hello, Guillermo. Yeah, I see. He did what? Okay, yeah, okay. Bye.
And then she hangs up. She goes, sorry, I've got to go. Like, it's such a natural, normal sitcom scene. And then she just backs into the shadows and then turns into a pile of rats.
Nadia! Oh my God!
And it's just like
really cool effect. Yeah.
It's just the juxtaposition. I think the juxtaposition is where so much of the comedy comes out.
Yeah. And I did like the Gregor sub-story there as well. Although he totally stole the put-on theatrical voice that I do when I'm doing voiceovers for games, though. It's that ridiculous Gregor voice. Yeah.
I thought he sounded a lot like Chris Hemsworth when he plays Thor, when he was talking like that. I was like, I had to like, because I wasn't really like watching it, but I was listening. When the first Gregor scene kind of like, when he like came out, and I was like, "Is that Chris Hemsworth?" Like,
yeah, he's got that sort of like old knight kind of accent, like,
yeah,
I will smite you where I stand, or where you stand, rather.
Have at you. Have at thee.
I think it's one of those arcs that's like sprinkled throughout the series of like Gregor is in the first couple of episodes, and then he comes back right at the end, and then you have that brilliant twist of finding out that actually he hasn't had all these horrible accidents. It's just been Laszlo beheading him through hundreds of years. One of my favourite lines, you come over and you make my lady wife all sad. I'm here to stop that kind of jive.
Yeah. Like, wait, what episode was that? I think I wrote that
the
down
last
as well.
episode.
Oh god, John.
Matt Berry's delivery is just brilliant because he's like made for this character because he's got that old, posh, like over exaggerated English accent that like you can just tell that he was walking around with a top hat in the 18th century or 17th or 6th, whatever. And it's just perfect for that kind of character because he's also like a bastard and he's like completely unforgivable. Like, this is a guy that turned a baby into a vampire.
Although
and then dumped it in the Bronx.
Yeah.
He does, however, have the most gorgeous wardrobe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want everything he owns, apart from the witch's hat. I'm not too fussed about that.
Oh yeah, where its bumhole touches the front of your head.
That's the anus.
That's the witch's anus.
Puckering anus.
I feel like we need to talk about Nadia a little
bloody
bit.
hat.
I feel like we need to talk about Nadia a little bit because Nadia is perhaps. I keep saying they're my favourite character because they're all my favourite characters.
She has the best temper tantrums ever.
Stupid fucking hat! with the massive bloody curse on it.
So go on about series 2 here, because I know we said we wouldn't, but I still love that line where she's pointing out Nandor in the painting. Cause what the fuck is that then? Bloody Persian Frank Zappa on a horse.
I think one of my favourite Nadia quotes was it was episode 5, and she's talking about Jeff/Gregor, and she just equates Jeff to a weak ejaculation. She's just like a weak ejaculation, like. Like I resonate so much with her character.
I can
like
I
just
like
like
that.
couldn't give a shit.
Yeah, just is herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melissa actually does that every time she finds something boring or disappointing now. She just goes, Jeff.
Jeff. I like her and Jenna as well. I feel like that's a really cute relationship. Played by Beanie Feldstein, who wasn't really very famous at that point, but then went on to star in Booksmart and is now a really big deal. So I think that's why she's not in series 2, is that
I still don't know who that is.
she got a lot more expensive. But I really like that little subplot, and I really like the way that Nadia's always like babying her. Oh, you stupid little
baby.
little baby vampire. Oh.
She couldn't have got that expensive because they managed to shell out for Danny Trejo and Tilda Swanson. Yeah.
Do you mean Swinton?
Mm.
Swinton.
Swinton,
Tilda
yeah,
Swinton.
whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. But
Yes.
you can afford those two. You can afford her.
So I feel like that scene, I really like the Vampire Council scene, but I found it really jarring when I watched it because I feel like it's really clear that none of them are in the same room. Specifically like Tilda Swinton, she's always standing on her own, and she always just seems like she's not quite in the conversation. I can see why. They had a lot of people to film and
It was
schedules.
a bit fourth wall breaking as well, wasn't it? But because I take it you got the joke behind the council.
Yeah.
Every single one of them was famously a vampire in a film.
Yeah.
So they're playing the vampires from the films they were in, you know? And it's like, especially when they start going about, well, Tom and Kiefer couldn't make it, you know?
Yeah, and Rob couldn't make it either.
Yeah.
As in like Robert Pattinson from Twilight.
Yeah.
They couldn't get him. Well, no, I like the idea that because she's called Tilda, like they don't give her. She's not the character that she plays in the film. It's as if the actor was just played by a vampire.
Yeah.
So it implies that in the film the actor wasn't really acting; it was just Tilda.
Well, yeah,
That's
it's the
just who
same
she
with all
is.
of them, wasn't it? I mean, Trejo was called Danny, and when they go about Kiefer and Tom, well, I'm not sure if they meant Tom Hiddleston or Tom Cruise because both have played vampires.
I think it's Tom Cruise because I think they're in the same. It's on the IMDb.
Yeah, she's in the same film with Tom Hiddleston.
Oh right, okay.
I don't need the IMDb. I've seen films. It's okay.
Yeah, no, but I don't have a memory. Also, Wesley Snipes was in Blade.
Yeah.
And he's half vampire hunter, which is why they call him the Daywalker, which I thought was quite funny.
Which is always really confusing because I know a guy called Dave Walker. That always really threw me off.
Yeah, no, I like that episode. It was a bit weird. And also another Flight of the Conchords was Mel in that one. I can't remember who the actress is. But she's in the screechy lady that hovers. She was in.
There was a lot
Flight
of
of the
references
Conchords.
in
That
there
the
as well.
screechy lady that hovers, I recognised her voice, and it's in Archer, Cheryl's brother Cecil's girlfriend
It's on
is played by the same.
The one under the ocean, yeah.
Yeah,
What's her name?
Tiffy or whatever.
You're the one with the amazing memory. What's that actress name? I've just remembered.
I honestly
Do you remember?
can't go and remember it because I never knew it to start with.
Kristen Shaw.
There you go. I just know things she's been in.
She's one of those, to be honest, she's one of those actresses that really takes me out of it anytime she's in something because she's so distinctive. Like she's got such a distinctive voice. I remember her as being the character that I first saw her in, which I think is Flight of the Conchords. And ever since then, she takes it out of it. But I also love her. It's the only time I forget who she is actually is in Bob's Burgers because she's the younger one. I can't remember her name.
The one with the hat.
Yeah.
IMDb description from Kiki there. One with the hat.
One with the hat. Pink rabbit hat.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm trying to think what else we should talk about.
Sam the cat. He
What was
needs
that?
Sam the cat. He's one of the familiars. He's like a recurring character.
Yeah.
He needs protecting at all costs. One of my favourite lines as well was from when they did the vampire orgy.
Oh yeah, that's a good episode.
Nadia is doing like a checklist for Guillermo to pick up, and she goes, "I need you to get a kilo of opioids." Like that was a good line. Also,
The sex net, I think.
No, it's the Baron's Night Out as well.
Baron's Night Out is one of my favourite episodes. All of them are my favourite episodes. I can just stop saying that it's my favourite now, because the whole thing is my favourite. Anyway, carry on.
Baron's Night Out is my favourite. But I think Baron says to Laszlo, do you know what I've always wanted to try? And Laszlo says, coprophilia. And he says, no, pizza pie. And then I had to Google what coprophilia is.
Oh, no, don't Google it. You don't want that in your search history.
Do you like the definition?
Well, I know what a coprolite is, so I can put two and two together.
Do you know, actually, I asked Siri, so luckily I just got the dictionary definition.
I got abnormal interest and pleasure in feces and defecation. Yay!
I was aware of this. Thank you for
was
sharing.
Great.
Laszlo's a disgusting bastard, isn't he?
And then the rest of that episode, I drank drug blood and now I'm a wizard, and Laszlo's coming on his head. Like, it's just such a British night out.
Yeah.
I feel. But,
we drank the drunk blood and now we are all... yeah, and just the way that the Baron dies. Like, did you expect that? Like, it shocked me. Like...
No, I knew like he was gonna like die because he just kept like falling.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. There's the classic comic beat. You could see it in the rhythm that's how it was going to happen, you know.
But it was the kind of like pretend threat and then a surprise threat afterwards, because he's falling down the stairs and he's like, ha ha, I could have fallen on one of these wooden stakes. The door opens.
It's exactly the same. Comedy and horror are two very closely related things. It's the comedy equivalent of the cat scare. You know, in every horror film. Yeah. Oh, there's something in there. Oh, it's just a cat. Turn round, the thing eats you. You know, it's the same thing.
But then I really like the little bit when they're burying him, and you just see his eyes just for a minute. So, like, did you notice that, Niki? Did you see that? It's like blink and you miss it.
Eyes.
When they're burying him, just before they're about to throw him in the hole, his eyes flash red, like the burnt remains of the Baron.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, no. So it's like implied that he's not actually dead.
They do like subtlety.
Yeah. I like the joke when they're introducing the Baron and they're talking about Nadja's like, we once had a very, very passionate love affair. But don't tell Laszlo. And then cut to Laszlo going, we once had a very passionate love affair.
And it's the pictures, like, you know, the old sort of English pictures that they put along with it.
Yeah, and it's like they're fucking a demon.
It makes it feel more sort of documentary style, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I love all that stuff. I love like the pictures that they show. It's really funny. Like, you just get the feeling that there was someone on the crew of the documentary that had to go into like the archives and find all these like
Renaissance pictures.
And a lot of the art is really good. Like, it does make me wonder whether they like photoshopped real art to make it look like.
Yeah, did they actually create from scratch? Maybe, you know, it's impressive.
It must be really cool if you're that actor and you could have all of these weird vampire artworks in your house of you, like...
You get them printed.
Yeah. And then I love that, like, the Baron is this, like, very passionate lover, but he just doesn't have any genitals. It's like, did he always have no genitals? No, he never had genitals. That's why he was such a good lover. Like...
I think one thing that needs discussion is Colin.
Yeah.
Yes, we haven't talked about Colin very much.
I like Colin.
I like Colin
fucking Robinson.
Yeah, it's cool. And I like that, like, you never really know what is going on with him. Like, there's a really good, like, little line in series 2, the beginning of series 2, where they're talking about, like, when he died, and he's just like, I don't even know what my deal is. Like, no one knows like how old he is, how long he's been there. Like, he doesn't seem like he's grown up in history. He's not got really any hang-ups. He's just this boring guy that hangs out in offices. Like,
and it's his bedroom.
Yeah.
I got myself a filing cabinet, and there's also like he's got the pictures on the wall because he thinks that's what humans will like to see, just some fruit on the wall, and it looks shit, but it's so cute. I think they've done his character really well.
Yeah,
I love that definitely. He doesn't actually work anywhere. He just turns up and pretends to work there. No one notices.
The thing I like about him as well is that you get this sense that, and I think again it's something that they explore in series 2 a bit more, is this idea that actually, even though they all hate him, he really likes them, and that he just wants to be a part of them, but he can't help but accidentally feed on them.
Yeah. I really like his character. It's really well portrayed as well, because there's always like this smugness
in like
everything he says, but even when it's sincere,
yeah,
there's always like this tiny like bit in his cheek where you can see that the actor is starting to smile, but he just
never
can't
quite tell whether he's being sincere or not. But I really like episode 2, the local government one. I find bits of it boring, but the thing I like about it is the way that you kind of get the sense that Colin Robinson's got this completely separate life where he just goes around to all his little hobbies and fucks with everyone. And then his face when he's just done like a mega feed is ridiculous.
Oh.
Like that kind of like face. I'm doing the face now on the camera, but listeners, you can't see it.
I think during that as well, where they implicate that Doug Peterson person, one of the people in the city council, and then he sits there and he's like, "I've got a chub."
No, I can't stand up right now, if you know what I mean.
Oh.
Gross.
Do you like how forthright he is?
We
Yeah.
can all learn from Colin. There we go.
Our Lord and Saviour.
Yeah, our Lord Colin.
The bit in the local government also reminds me of the last episode where they go into church. I feel like that's a really fun scene because, again, it's like Colin Robinson just goes to church. He just goes to funerals and feeds off people. Like, I think that's a really funny idea. But then
Sorry, go on.
No, you.
No, it was something completely different.
Oh, okay. It's just the image of them like burning when they go in churches and then crying tears. It's just so funny. I like that it kind of, the whole series does deal with like the traditional vampire things of like they can't cope with crosses and, you know, I like that, the way they do that. The bit where Guillermo dumps holy water on his lap is just really funny and it catches fire. Anyway, what were you going to say before?
That was literally what I was going to say. They're pretty consistent with the fact that, you know, they're vampires.
Yeah.
They never really let it slip.
Yeah.
Which is nice because you can quite easily, but they've obviously done a fair bit of research and whatnot to make it almost the most stereotypical vampire program maybe ever.
Yeah, but then also quite realistic. As well, like as realistic as vampires can be, but you sort of, it's believable, I think is what I'm trying to say.
One thing I've always said with any form of writing like this, you need to be consistent with your lore. If you create magic, that magic has to work like a science, essentially. Otherwise, you can't really follow the narrative, and they nail it. It's lovely.
Yeah, and I like the kind of assumption as well that because vampires exist, then all of the other creatures have to exist as well. So you get the werewolf episode, and later on you get some more in series 2. You get some kind of other supernatural characters,
entities.
Yes,
empathy vampires, because we all know one of those. You know?
Another series that it really reminds me of is, did any of you ever watch Being Human?
No.
It was like a BBC show.
I'm aware
like 2008.
of it, but it felt so contrived that I just didn't bother.
See, I watched the whole thing and I really like it because it's a similar kind of concept of like a vampire, a werewolf, and a ghost living in a house share in Bristol. It's called Being Human because the premise of it is that they're trying to live as humans. So like they're trying their best to have normal lives. So like Mitchell's a vampire, but he's decided to give up blood and he's just doing his best to try and like not give in to murdering people. And then the werewolf is trying to like figure out the most like risk averse way of transforming into a werewolf every month so he doesn't kill people. But there's a lot, it's that sort of mundane versus the supernatural. Like one of the things that I think is really funny is that Mitchell the vampire is like hundreds of years old and he fucking hates IKEA because the furniture's not built to last, you know, because like that only lasts like 5 years.
That's quite good.
That's 20 minutes for a vampire. It's a good series and I think it's very well written because it deals with like zombies and all of that kind of thing, but in a very realistic kind of way, which is one of the things I really like about this series. So Being Human, thumbs up.
I might revisit now. So I was put off at the time when it came out, because at that exact point in time, the concept was really unoriginal. You know? So it kind of put me off, but it might be worth a revisit.
The thing that sets it apart, I think, is the writing. It's very... It's not a documentary style, but the writing is really... it's really human, actually. Like, there's a lot of humanity to it. Like, it's one of those series, again, which tries to show how human the supernatural characters are. It's interesting. Actually, It made me think of this series a little bit as well, because one of the things that they have in Being Human is the vampires have like this shady organization who are in charge of covering up all of the murders. So there's like shady vampire people hidden in the police force who, whenever a vampire goes out and murders someone, they're the ones that cover it up. And I do find sometimes the bit I struggle with it with this series is like how they can just kill people in the middle of clubs and they get away with it, you know? Like, I don't quite believe that Guillermo like goes in and takes all the bodies out of like the middle of Staten Island. Like, I'd struggle a little bit with the realism of that. Like when they're out on the piss with the Baron, like, did people not just find a load of corpses with fang marks in them?
Just
mouths?
looking
Like,
at them, do you know what I mean? They don't.
Yeah.
It's they don't even try to really cover it up. Like,
Yeah.
really. But I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
it kind of defines it.
And it is one of those things where if you think too hard about it, then it stops making sense. But yeah, I don't know.
That was one of the big problems I had with that concept in John Wick. Did either of you get around to seeing that?
No.
Where you've got the big assassins organisation that all the hitmen work for, and there's like rules, and it's like this giant global conspiracy, and even to the point where taxi drivers recognise them and all policemen. You just think, well, if everyone bloody knows, it's not a fucking conspiracy, is it?
Yeah.
You know, it's just a little bit of a flaw in the plan.
That's kind of like in Assassin's Creed as well, when they talk about like the creepy cult of Cosmos, and everyone seems to know who the cult are, even though they're supposed to be the secret, shady organisation. And it's just like, well, you're not very secret then, are you?
No, exactly. I mean, when it gets to the point where it's just some guy that doesn't leave his house and his nan that don't know who it is, doesn't really apply. You're just picking on men.
I think I like, going back to what we do in the shadows, though, I think one of the things that I love about it is just how shit vampires they are. Like, I love this idea that they were sent to the new worlds to like dominate the whole population, and then they took over two streets.
To here. Yeah.
Like, that's such a cool idea. And then they're just sort of like, well, the Baron's checking how we got on. But we've only, 6 people, maybe 7 houses.
I mean, like, one of the best moments as well for me was in the trial episode.
Mm-hmm.
They go through all like Danny Trejo and all of that, like get all the celebrity cast in.
Yeah.
And then the camera pans to the right, and Colin is in the council. And he was like, well, what was I supposed to do?
That was a nice.
We need the
nice
local
visual
representative.
joke, actually.
Like, I'm such a Colin. And I'm such a Nadia, I feel it.
Yeah.
The bit where it's they're in the well and they're about to
that's what I
die.
was gonna talk about. And he's like trolling them.
Like,
Oh, okay. Well, if you don't want saving, I'll just take my great big parasol away.
no, I wasn't going to say that actually. I was going to say that Laszlo suddenly confessed that he was Jack the Ripper.
Oh, yeah.
On his like deathbed confession.
And then he's like talking about how he wished he'd had more sex. And then Nadia's just like, but you've had a lot of sex. A lot.
Yeah, that was one of the best like moments in that series for me.
Yeah. No, it's all so funny. There's just so much depth to it. I don't know if depth's the right word. There's a joke everywhere.
It's layered. That's how I'd say it. I was very disappointed that the sequel film was cancelled, though, because there was going to be a spin-off one about the werewolves, so that was a shame.
I didn't realise that was a thing.
Yeah, it was just called We Are Wolves, but, werewolves. And never happened.
Oh, we are yeah, I get that now.
We Are Wolves, but that's like werewolves, but spaced out weird.
I just thought of and one of the other quotes that I really liked as well, where I think it's Nandor is oh no, it's
have you noticed Nando?
when Laszlo's talking about the Baron, and he's like,
Vampires have hidden amongst humans for millennia. There are some in the community that believe that vampires should rule the world. One such person is the Baron, and he's become a massive prick.
Absolutely agree.
Which is ironic because he doesn't have one.
It's just such good lines. Like, the writing in it is brilliant. But then I do think it's probably one of those series where a lot of it's improvised as well, because Taika Waititi is a big one for improvising. Like, a lot of Thor Ragnarok is improvised.
You get a natural flow
with all the CGI and everything. Like, they just play, they just piss around on his sets. It's really good.
I think the dude that plays Nandor probably improvises the most. That's the vibe I get from him, because it's just like, it's funny because it's stupid.
Yeah.
The things he says are just fucking stupid, but it's jokes. But it does feel like he's making it up as it goes.
The other quote that I really like is from the second episode is when Laszlo's describing Nandor, and he says,
Now, how best to describe Nandor? I would say that he's blessedly unburdened with the complications of a university education. But give him an axe, and he's second to none. Though you wouldn't want him as your barrister. Don't let him fucking see this.
I've got a quote from Nadia on her little Jenna stupid baby.
Go on.
I just particularly liked it because I felt like the I don't know, the spite was almost natural. It really felt like it was like almost spite, but it was like in love as well. But she said about Jenna,
It is very disgusting for me to see this little one like this. She is like a disabled, very sickly donkey that you want to smash in the skull because it is just too pitiful to look at.
but it was like coming from a place of love, and I was like,
I like this mental image of you watching that and just going, oh.
And there was a bit later in that episode that I think this is the bit that I laughed the most in like the first season or series. It's when they're trying to show, I think it's Laszlo and Nadia are trying to show Jenna how to turn into a bat, and he just says, "Oh yeah, you just need to say bat," and
bat,
and she starts undressing, and they go, "What the fuck are you getting undressed?" And she's like, "Well, when you turn into a bat, where'd your clothes go?" And they both just look at each other like,
go,
"Oh yeah, did I?"
Don't get hung up with the details.
No.
I do love the idea that there's just this sense of like they don't really know what's going on. They just sort of go with it.
Yeah. They just sort of enjoy the universe for what it is.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. Is there anything you want to talk about, Sam?
I think we covered most of everything, really.
I feel like there's loads we haven't talked about, but I can't remember it.
I mean, we kind of, in a blanket way, covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, it's not that deep, really, is it?
No, not really.
Oh, and we didn't delve too much into things like the werewolves or the...
Yeah, should we talk about the werewolf episode for a bit?
Mm.
It made me sad that they never say werewolves, not swearwolves.
Hey, don't swear.
Sorry,
We're werewolves.
Not swear.
What are we?
Werewolves, not swearwolves.
The thing I like about the werewolves, it's sort of almost lore. They're a pack, but they're almost like a support group.
Yeah.
So they're all like supporting each other, and they're all like helping themselves through therapy. And I liked like the difference between that and the vampires. And so the vampires are these ancient bastards, but the werewolves are like trying to like help each other through their curse.
Yeah. So the whole bit about the trousers, wasn't it? What are you wearing? Oh, those are my new jeans. Well, you're going to lose those, aren't you? You need something elasticated. You know how big you get. You know?
The ending of that episode, I think, was one of the few times where I laugh out loud a lot with this series, actually, but with the squeaky toy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so funny.
Oh, he was in Concords as well, actually, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just chucking the squeaky toy. And then the bit afterwards where they've gone downstairs and it's like, hey, do you mind if we keep the squeaky toy?
Yeah.
The bit at the beginning of that episode is, again, one of my favourites. It's classic Matt Berry kind of performance of, here are my vaginas. This one is my lady wife, Nadia. And right next to it, my mother. It cracks me up every time, his accent. And have you seen him in other stuff, Niki, Matt Berry?
I'm sure that I have, but I can't think of a title.
So he's in the IT crowd quite a bit. He plays Douglas Renham, and he's good in that. I'm trying to think. Most recently, Toast of London is one of my favourites.
Year of the Rabbit.
I haven't seen Year of the Rabbit before. Toast of London's really funny because he's a voiceover artist, so it's
It's pretty good.
The thing I find with Matt Berry now is that he's on quite a lot of adverts. So he's on the Money Supermarket advert at the moment. His whole thing is Money Supermarket. And it's really funny. But the thing is, because he's been in Toast of London as a voiceover actor, whenever I hear him in voiceovers, I always think it's Toast, not Matt Berry. I've got that kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, very similar with Year of the Rabbit, where it's set in the late 1800s. And I just keep thinking, is this Laszlo before he died?
Yeah, but doesn't he do like a Cockney accent?
Well, he's Cockney, yeah, but it would fade over time.
He has to be posh to me. Like, he has to have that.
Well, to be fair, in that he said Del Boy to someone. That like took me back a little bit because there is a lot of like British influence on the whole series. Obviously, it's like BBC or FX or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's so catered to like British humour.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, we need to talk about the Baron eating pizza pie
You're
and then
obsessed
launching
with the
himself
fucking
around.
Baron, aren't you?
I love the Baron. I think one of my favourite bits as well is when he wakes up in episode 6 and then he eats one of the cameramen. And I just think that's like reinforces that sense of realism of like, I'm really sorry guys, we're gonna do better to protect you in future. And then after he eats the sound guy, and then after that the sound is really shit because you get the sense that the crew are still trying to do it even though they're one man down. Like, because there are other series like The Office. Actually, in the American Office, the crew do become a bit part of it. But like, there are loads of series where they sort of half do the documentary style in the sense that, like, Parks and Rec is a perfect example, where it is in a documentary style, but you never get the sense that the documentary crew are actually there. Like, they don't ever become part of the story. The last series of The Office is quite interesting because the documentary is released and then they talk about making it. So that part is interesting, but you never get this sense that the documentary crew are actually a part of the narrative. But you do get that in this, and I think it's, again, it helps with that realism. It's I'm trying to think of my film studies A-level now. I think it's called verisimilitude, which is like the art of realism in film.
You're making words up now.
I think it's verisimilitude. Yeah, look it up just to make sure I'm right.
Well, I'll make up terms too then. Well, I liked when they used that film effect, which was Scooby-Doo panpipe. Yeah.
Verisimilitude is the appearance of being true or real. So fuck you, I got a big word right.
Well, I like, fuck you, I can operate Google, okay?
Yeah, well no, I know things. That was what I was saying fuck you about. I knew a thing and I remembered a word, which is a big deal for me.
Yeah, it's not really a biting comeback when it's fuck you because, hang on, it's buffering. Because, you know.
Oh, did it buffer?
No, I'm on about you loaded. Stop spoiling the joke.
I'm good at spoiling jokes.
I would have liked to have seen more of Simon the Devious and his entourage.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about that episode.
Count Rapula.
Love him. He does like all the voices for like Big Mouth and it.
Again, you're talking about a thing I don't know. But no, I've seen him in loads of stuff as well, the Simon the Devious.
Just Laszlo taking his hat back as well. Like, and I'll take that, you crispy prick.
I know the bit where Laszlo gets his coat stuck in the taxi. Just all of the curse bits are just really funny. When he falls through the floor, it's just so funny.
Good swearing.
Your hat's bleeding.
Good swearing. Stupid massive bloody hat with them stupid massive bloody curse.
Curse bloody hat.
The last thing I want to talk about in terms of relationships, I want to talk about Nandor and Guillermo.
It's cute.
Because I feel like a lot of the time they're like a married couple. Because they've been together for 10 years. And this kind of servant dynamic. They are just really good friends. Like, I think, as well, it plays up in a lot of series too.
Yeah, that bit where he saves him from Topher was a really little sweet bit where he's getting all defensive about protecting Guillermo's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he showed through then, you know? And it was, it's a very classic long-term relationship where one of them is taking the other one a little bit for granted, you know?
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Like the little scene where Nandor says to celebrate your years of service, and then Guillermo's really excited because he thinks he's going to be turned into a vampire, and there's like, I made glitter art of us. Like Nando is like, no, I did it again. You've ruined me. I keep calling him Nando, not Nandor.
Made piri art.
Nandor is like the ultimate soft boy in the sense that he's so emotional, even though he's like 800 years old and used to be like a butcherer in the Ottoman Empire, but he's just like really like, Guillermo, can you say goodnight?
I'm not asleep yet.
The
Guillermo.
same way he got excited about meeting his living descendant.
Yeah, got her a teddy bear. Like
killed her.
But then felt like he really needed to go to the funeral.
Very wholesome.
Yeah, very wholesome.
Yeah.
But then it's like support as well, because you've got the bit where, out of anger, Guillermo is like, you're a fucking vampire. Like, don't you understand? You're a fucking vampire. And he's like, thank you, Guillermo. I needed that. Like, they've got a very, like, they need each other kind of thing. But it's interesting to see, again, without giving away too much, it's interesting what they're going to do with that relationship in Series 3, because obviously that relationship has changed a lot now. We need to talk about Series 2. That's a whole other podcast, but we should talk about Series 2 at some point in detail.
Yes.
Cool. On that note, then, should we move on? Should we talk about what we're going to do next week?
What we're going to do in the shadows next week?
Yes. So, you've all had a go at making picks. This was Sam's choice, wasn't it?
Technically,
Although I kind of peer pressured you into choosing it.
massively.
I'm the puppet master in this situation.
No, you're the little bitch that I don't want to hear moaning about it. She's like, all right,
Yeah,
just
I
do it.
suppose it's true. Right, so I am choosing what to talk to you with this week, and I have picked out 4 episodes of Doctor Who for you to all watch.
Interesting.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's only 4 episodes. It's only like, what?
Sam, where can I get firearms in the UK?
My shed.
You've got some, haven't you, Sam?
Might do.
Can you shoot me?
I've tried to pick 4 episodes. 2 of them have Peter Capaldi in them. So first of all, that's not so bad.
Okay.
Weirdly, though, Peter Capaldi playing 2 different characters.
Oh, okay.
So the first episode I picked for you is Rose, which is the very first episode of when it came back in 2005. There's a janky CGI bin that eats someone, so that's fun, and plastic shop window dummies that attack people. It's interesting, but it also sort of introduces you to Doctor Who in a way that everyone got introduced to it when it came back in series in 2005. The next one I've picked out is Fires of Pompeii, which is a very good 10th Doctor episode. Also features Peter Capaldi as a supporting cast member. The third episode I picked out for you is The 11th Hour, which is Matt Smith's first episode. It's a good jumping on point of just figuring out what the show is again. And then the last one I have is Thin Ice. It's one of my favourite Doctor companion combination episodes. It's got Peter Capaldi as the Doctor and Pearl Mackie as Bill. They go to Regency England and they solve a mystery on an ice market, which is very interesting. So the frozen Thames. So I've only 4 episodes. I'm not getting you to watch like 5 hours of TV again. And if you hate it, then we'll talk about why you hate it.
Can I watch the Peter Capaldi ones with spliced audio from the thick of it?
I will send you a trailer later. They made when they announced Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, someone mocked up a trailer for Doctor Who into cutting it with clips of Peter Capaldi swearing. It's really good fun.
Yeah, you showed me that. It is good.
So yeah, that's what we're going to do next week. I will write in the show notes of this episode which ones we're going to watch next week, so that if you want to watch them before we talk about it, you can do. And then it will be your turn again, Nikki, so you can get revenge on me after that.
Revenge away!
So,
Yay! Weird hentai film.
Really?
I don't even know what I can suggest.
Just have a little look through Krieger's back.
Maybe one of these true crime things, because I feel like that would be a really good discussion, even though it's not really escapism.
Yeah, and we're stretching the definition quite a lot. I'm fine. It's how you relax. That was the whole point of the escapism aspect of it. Is like, what do you do to take your mind off? The irony of choosing a podcast about taking your mind off things is that it was a really good sort of concept in the old world before we all had to get locked inside our houses. Like, it was like, how do you take your mind off work? How do you take your mind off the everyday stresses of life? What TV do you watch to relax? And now we're all at home doing whatever we want. I mean, obviously the world is quite stressful at the moment, but in a different way to what it was before. So it kind of throws the whole concept of escapism out of the window a little bit. But, you know, whatever you do to relax fits in with the idea of this podcast. So it is what it is. Yeah. So join us again next time. I'm not going to say next week because that's just setting myself up for failure. Join us again next time for episode 18, where we're going to watch 4 episodes of Doctor Who. Those titles again, Rose, The Fires of Pompeii, The 11th Hour, and Mummy on the Orient Express. If you're in the UK, they're on BBC iPlayer or they're on Netflix. And if you're in the US, I think everything's just moved to HBO Max if you want to watch those episodes. So yeah, Nikki, you look overwhelmed with joy about the fact that you're going to have to watch Doctor Who.
I feel nothing but sorrow.
I'm sorry.
I am empty.
I
I'm but a
apologise.
shell of a human now.
But we'll see. Maybe you might like it. You never know. I didn't think I'd like Ganso, but, you know.
Yeah, but that has titties.
Yeah, there's
Doctor
no titties.
Who doesn't have titties. Yeah, so there you go. I've already got.
Did you just play the titty trump card? Play the titty trump card on you, Luke. You lose. Sorry.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode.
Yes.
Lovely talking to you
10 out of
both.
10 beans.
10 out of 10 beans. You really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because it's like easy on the eyes and the ears and the soul when it's nothing it's not like these true crime things I've been watching where sometimes it can make you sort of be like, fuck. And it's not like watching a shitty cartoon like Family Guy.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle, which is just
Yeah.
nice. It's easy and it's fun.
Fair enough. I don't know if I can promise that next week, but we'll see. Cool. Okay, well, just some final things to wrap up then. So please follow us on social media, at Escapism Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Try and post on there a bit more. If I'm honest, I'm shit at social media. If you message me, I will see it because I do check it, but I'm going to try and post more. That's my thing that I'm going to try and do this week. Also, if you've enjoyed the podcast, if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts, that would be wonderful. Kind of pushes us up in the charts, so that would be good. Why are you giggling?
Just Niki trying to balance on her chair.
You trying to put me off while I'm rambling all this stuff?
No, sorry.
It's alright, I'm just not looking at you. Right, what have I done? Leave a review, social media. Oh, also, if you want to suggest something for us to watch, drop us an email, escapismpod@icloud.com, just with a little description of what you think we should watch and why you like it. And get in touch. Let us know what you thought of what we do in the shadows. Let us know in advance of what you think of those episodes of Doctor Who, if you like. Finally, our music is from filmmusic.io. It's called Nowhere Land by Kevin MacLeod, and it's licensed under Creative Commons. Sam, stop eating your microphone. You're going to get indigestion.
It's full of iron.
Let's say goodbye, you two, before you, I don't know, choke on something.
I can't think of any really nerdy sound engineering jokes.
Say goodbye so we can go.
Goodbye. Bye.
You sound like the Skype noise when you hang up.
I did a bit actually, didn't it?
Say goodbye, Sam, normally.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Hang on, I've got a wife stomping up the stairs. What do you want? What are you doing? Well, hang on, because we're in the middle of our fucking chat, aren't we? We're doing our thing.
You can come up and say hello.
Yes, we're trying to do our bloody thing.
I thought I'd say hello.
Well, I've already got to edit this down out anyway, so you might say hello.
Hello.
Hello. I can't see you.
Well, I'm not allowed to enter the sanctum.
Well, because look at all this stuff you've got to bloody well tread on.
I don't want to bloody well tread on it, Lazo. Can you do me a cigarette before I go downstairs?
Yeah, I'll bring you one down in a sec.
Oh, apparently I'm not.
No, because for starters, you're putting your hair in my drink. Okay, what are you doing?
Okay, lovely to see you guys.
Bye. Lovely to see you
I bring
too.
you one down in a bloody second.
All right, bloody hell.
Ah, bye, darling.
You treated her like she's got a massive bloody curse.
That's the thing that happened.
Yeah. It's alright. It's gone. We'll cut it out.
I know.